What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report here. My name is Patrick Siepman. Haven't gotten up here and chopped it up with you guys in a little bit. Was taking some PTO this past week, but we're back, and I'm excited to be talking about our Bulls team. As you know, we all know they did stand pat at this year's NBA trade deadline, but we still have some buyout targets for this Bulls team, which I'll be diving into on today's show. I got 5 names, so stay tuned for the whole thing. I'll be breaking down each player and kind of giving you guys how I think they would fit with how this currently or how this Bulls team is currently constructed. And there's one guy that I actually think would make them better this year, and kind of also a long-term play as well. But before we dive into those 5 names, guys, I just got to ask you guys to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are new here, go right down there, lock us in. I'm going to be posting Bulls videos throughout the rest of the season, and I really want to up our content and up our game here at Chat Sports. So if you guys want to show me some love, show me some support, just drop a sub on today's video. I would really appreciate it. But hey, let's dive into it now. 5 top buyout targets for the Bulls. Number 1 has been the name that the Bulls have been linked to, and that is Joe Harris, the shooter that has been bought out by the Detroit Pistons. Joe Harris, normally known for his time at Virginia, actually back in college where he was a lockdown shooter. But then he went to the Brooklyn Nets, had a couple of good years there, and pretty much he is just the prototypical catch and shoot shooter in the NBA, where he is not going to create anything for him. He's not even to a level of a Duncan Robinson who can put the ball on the deck a little bit. Joe Harris is that typical corner shooter in the league. And if kind of the offense, flow of the offense, ball gets swung to him, it's end of the shot clock, and Joe Harris can just step right into a 3 and knock it down. He is one of the best in the league at that. But he has really struggled defensively throughout his career. I just think that whole combination where it's what do you do well when your shot's not falling? I feel like some of us have even heard our high school coaches tell us that. It's when your shots aren't getting knocked down, what are you doing to impact winning? And that's where I kind of get to with Joe Harris. And, in terms of his fit with the Bulls, I think the Bulls do need a shooter on the roster. I really do think they need that. They have guys who can shoot, but they don't really have that true shooter, on this team so far. And I guess Joe Harris would, make some sense for this year. I wouldn't be fully against bringing in Joe Harris. I just wouldn't want, if Harris is in the rotation, does that take minutes away? Does that take shots away from an Io, from a Coby White? That's the only thing I would be kind of, negative against that, or even a Patrick Williams, because, I've talked about my main goal for the Bulls second half, post-trade deadline, post-All-Star break, is develop the young 3 core of Io, Coby White, and Patrick Williams. And I don't think maybe adding a guy like Joe Harris would interrupt that. He may even help it. So I'm kind of on the fence on Joe Harris. I wouldn't be upset at all. It's more of one of those things where it's I'm going to need to see it before I can kind of make a judge or say if that would be a good move or not. But Joe Harris has been linked to the Bulls, and that's why he is number 1 on my list. Number 2, I don't think this is too likely, mainly because I do think he is, I just don't think this is where the Bulls would go at the center position. But Nerleans Noel, former top 10 pick in the NBA draft, he had all types of potential coming out of college, and I really liked him as well. But his NBA career has not gone the way he would want it to, or I'm sure a lot of people would have thought. But he is a true center, and I think the Bulls do need to add more size to this roster. But I don't know if it's in the center position. I think the Bulls need to add more size at that forward spot. Get a guy like an Aaron Gordon, get a really strong forward, got big shoulders, can be a big slasher, and I think that's the type of player the Bulls need, because you already have Vooch, you already have Drummond. I don't really think a guy like Noel would really add anything to the Bulls, and that's why it's just I would like Noel. I think he's a okay player in the NBA, but I think the Bulls already have 2 bigs on the roster that are already, significantly better than him. And I don't know. I just don't think Noel would add anything. I really don't. So I'm gonna say no on Noel as of right now, but he's number 2 on my list. And now number 3, and then we'll have 2 more here in a second. Number 3 may be my favorite. Actually, I'm going to say my favorite for the end here. But my number 3 buyout target for the Bulls, Victor Oladipo. Now, this is an interesting one for me because, like the argument I was saying earlier, I don't want to take shots away from an Io, a Kobe. You already got Caruso and DeMar in there. Adding another scoring combo guard in Oladipo doesn't really make sense, right? Well, I think Oladipo, if you're looking at where the Bulls are going to be in 3 to 4 years, and maybe you bring in an Oladipo and you kind of say to him, hey, we're going to take a chance on you. We're going to play you this year. And let's just say it works out. Let's just say he's an efficient 10-point-a-game guy, plays really solid defense, plays the game the right way. Like that type of player off the bench in maybe 3 to 4 years for the Bulls could be a huge addition. Now, would it help so much this season? I don't know. I don't really think so. I just think the Bulls there's a lot of mouths to feed already on this roster. That's why any of these guys coming to Chicago I do think is unlikely. But a guy like Oladipo, man, like in terms of like a championship team, if that's where we want the Bulls to be eventually, like I feel like Oladipo would be a great option as just a guard off the bench who can really do it all. He's not great at anything, but he's really good at a bunch of different things. And I've always said, my role players, I want you to be great at one thing. Like, I want you to be a standout defender, standout catch and shoot shooter. But I also think there's other types of role players in the league where it is the Victor Oladipos, where it's just like you're good at just about everything, and you can maybe be in a little bit of an above average defender if you really lock into that side of the floor. But, Oladipo is just one of those guys, man, where it's just like, I would take the chance on him. Mainly it's because I just mainly loved him in college and loved him coming out. And I still think that player is in there. But Oladipo would be a guy that I would really love for the Bulls to sign. Now, I am going to get to 2 more here in a second, but I do want to first tell you guys about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is sponsoring today's show, so big time shout out to them. And if you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS, use code CLNS. We're going to give you guys a first deposit match all the way up to $100. Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy sports made easy. All you got to do, create a lineup of 2 or more players. You're going to choose more or less on some projected stat types. Create a lineup. Start winning the cash today. Get hooked up with Prize Picks. Link for that down below in the comment section and description of today's show. Now, here is another, I guess this would be this would fit a need for the Bulls, but it's Furkan Korkmaz, and hopefully I just pronounced that right. But Furkan Korkmaz, listen, I was a big fan of him. He is that typical kind of stretch 4 big who can get crazy hot. That's the thing about Korkmaz. He has this blackout factor, which I think of most guys in the NBA nowadays do have. But it's when you see those first 2 threes come in, and you guys can probably get that feeling. Same way when you're at your local LA Fitness playing pickup hoops, or you're at your local park playing with your friends, you see those first 2 shots go in, you're seeing back rim the rest of the game, rest of the night, rest of the run, wherever you are. So I think Korkmaz does have that to like one of the highest levels in the NBA, and I actually wouldn't mind him at all because I like Patrick Williams a lot, but Korkmaz is kind of the yin to the yang to P-Dub, like P-Dub that prototypical athletic slashing wing, where Korkmaz could kind of be that Kevin Love next to him, which I think those 2 players in your front court really complement each other well. Obviously, I would like to have a different type of big in that lineup in comparison to like Drummond or Vooch, for example. But Korkmaz is out there. I think he'd be a great one. Shoots the ball really well. Good size on the perimeter. Struggles defensively if he gets switched onto a guard in a pick and roll situation. But most of those stretch 4s, they have that. They struggle with that. But, Korkmaz, I'd be all in on signing Korkmaz. But, obviously, we're going to have to, wait and see on that one. Now, let's get into my favorite buyout target for the Bulls. And I know a lot of you guys may get in the comment section and say, Patrick, why would you want to take a chance on this bust of a prospect? That guy is Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox. If you guys don't remember this guy, big old forward coming out. He had some guard-like skills. If you guys remember his summer league with the New York Knicks, man, I thought this guy looked like an athletic Kevin Durant out there. And I think he is a guy. Where the Bulls are at right now, what do I want? I want young players that got tons of potential that are going to come in and play hard. I think he would fit in really well with what Ayo Dosunmu, Coby White, and Patrick Williams are all kind of going through, because you look at those 3 guys mainly on the Bulls, nobody really around the league is like, oh, that guy's going to break out. Like, oh, watch out for the Bulls' young core. Nobody really says that. So I think it could kind of be a group motivation where it's like, we bring in Kevin Knox, and it's like he's part of this young core that we are building of these, like, really big and kind of, I will say he's hyper athletic. Patrick Williams is hyper athletic. Ayo, for a guard, in my opinion, he is hyper athletic due to his combination of size, speed, and just overall quickness to him. Coby White, obviously, good athlete, not hyper athletic, but these young and up and coming hungry players, I think Kevin Knox would fit in really well with what the Bulls are trying to do. And I would take a chance on him, man. He's got the size. He's got the attributes. Like, it just comes down to if he can develop his game, and maybe a place like Chicago would be a great spot for him to develop. Now, that's my 5 names. Noel, Joe Harris, Oladipo, Kevin Knox, and also Kirk are the big 5 that I wanted to go over on today's show. But you guys get down in the comments section. I'll make this the pinned comment. Let me know, who do you want the Bulls to sign as a potential buyout target? Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back on the channel this week, back in the studio with graphics, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But see you guys next time. Go Bulls.